I want to mention that Between the Lines Live is brought to you by Serving Our Seniors. When you need help, call 419-624-1856. Serving Our Seniors for Erie County residents age 60 and better. Jilly Burns is producing this segment of Between the Lines. You want to say hello, Jilly? And I think that's all of the inside business that we have to take care of. So let me introduce Sheriff Sigsworth and Joey Supina. Thank you for being on today's program. And we wanted to have you here to talk about the recovery movement, what we like to call the recovery movement, but also the epidemic. There was a report out of the Associated Press today that Ohio is leading the state in opiate deaths, I believe, is what the report said. And Sheriff Sigsworth, you've recently become more engaged with the Sandusky Police Department.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about where that's? Yesterday there were 8 arrests, I believe.
Right.
And can you talk about the cooperative effort that's happening?
Sure. A couple weeks ago, Chief Orzak reached out to me after a large number of overdose cases that had occurred within the city in a very short period of time. He said, hey, can you provide us with some assistance to target, in particular, the drug traffickers, the people that are peddling this poison on the streets of the city of Sandusky? So I said, sure, you tell me what you need and when you need them. And so we had a meeting, kind of a planning session with the command staff at the Sandusky Police Department. We currently have 1 full-time detective and 1 other deputy that's working in a part-time investigative capacity assigned to work hand-in-hand with the Sandusky Police Department's detectives to help combat some of the trafficking issues in the city.
So what is the end goal? I mean, is the end goal to clear out drug dealers in the city of Sandusky, Ohio?
I think the end goal is to realize there is a significant problem with heroin and fentanyl overdoses in the city of Sandusky, and try and do something to put a dent in those numbers and to make a difference on the street, trying to eliminate some of the people, again, that are peddling the heroin, the fentanyl. And let's not kid ourselves, they know what they're selling.
Right.
And they know what the effect is on the community.
Right.
And I think as long as they're making money, they really could care less what's going on.
And does it send a message? Does it, that we're here, we're coming after you? I mean, that's effectively what you and Chief Orzak said 2 weeks ago, that we're coming after you.
Well, I think what the message we're trying to send is, look, we're going to concentrate on the traffickers. We're going to try and remove them from the society in the city of Sandusky and try and cut down on some of these overdose deaths and the overdose cases that are going on in very significant numbers within the city.
And you see this as a continuing effort?
I do. I don't think this is anything that's going to be short-term, weeks. I look at it as probably going to be at least months in duration. We'll provide the assistance to the police department as long as Chief Orzak needs it.
So that could be forever, for as long as it takes?
As long as it takes. As long as he requests the assistance, as long as the problem exists. The city police have very good knowledge of what's going on the street, who's involved with what. I think the chief just needs some assistance in focusing on some of those issues and some of those investigations.
So would you say that residents, viewers, readers of the Sandusky Register, should they be encouraged by this new level of cooperation that's happening, although you've always cooperated?
Yeah, we've always cooperated with the Sandusky Police. Our detectives are in touch with them on a daily basis. I'm probably in touch with Chief Orzak at least once a day about different issues that are affecting both our agency and the city and law enforcement in general. So I think, I don't know that encourage be the word, but I think they should understand that we are working actively trying to do something about this problem.
And so the message really goes to those. The message that you sent this week was that we're coming after you.
Yeah, I think the message is this. If you're going to deal heroin, opiates, fentanyl in the city of Sandusky, there's going to be a concerted effort to find you and charge you.
And Joey, can you look at that? I mean, to me, hearing that, it's like it's encouraging. I got to say, and I have mixed emotions about how this works. But that's encouraging, and that shows resolve. And Joey, you've been in the recovery movement for a long time, and you've worked with addicts and recovering addicts and lapsing addicts. And can you talk about what this might mean to that community?
This is an essential component to the recovery movement. I I'm a firm believer that you have to pay the consequences of your actions, no matter what they are. Now, understandably, if a person becomes addicted and they steal a flat screen TV from Walmart, they need to make compensation for that, and they may need to do some time, but at the same time, they're stealing for their habit. If you remove the narcotic from them, generally speaking, you end up with just a person that was formerly, a criminal no longer. But there is an element that is out there that the sheriff and the chief of police need to go after. Those are the hardcore criminals that know what they're doing and what they're selling. The unfortunate part of the sales sometimes is that a person may be buying one thing, thinking it's something, not heroin, and getting heroin or fentanyl. And therein lies the problem. Because once you become addicted, you become addicted for life. This is a chronic disease. There's a chronicity to it. It does not go away. You can buy simple marijuana on the street, and if it's laced with fentanyl, you will most probably experience a high like you've never experienced before. And unfortunately, you may become addicted.
Interesting. So you're encouraged by this stepped
I'm
up
absolutely
activity?
encouraged.
Is it fair to say it's stepped up activity?
It is from the standpoint where we have additional personnel assigned on a daily basis now to assist the Sandusky Police Department. Yes, stepped up enforcement.
How is this different from the old task force, or is it the same, or is it?
No,
it's just
it's different in that you don't have a separate budget. We are working within our own agency's budgets, and this is not unusual for us to assist other agencies throughout the county,
right.
Whether it be village, township, or city police departments. We do it all the time. The difference here is because of the large number of deaths, the large number of overdoses that have occurred, Chief Orzak, instead of asking for just assistance maybe for an hour or two, has asked for assistance on a full-time basis.
Okay,
at least short term for the time being. And so that's the difference.
And so there were 8 people arrested yesterday. Several of them on distribution charges.
Right.
Serious felony drug charges.
Correct.
And they were brought to the county jail.
Most were. I think 1 or 2 were taken into federal custody and transported by the federal authorities.
And so, who are these people in your mind? Who are these 8 people?
I think most of the people arrested yesterday, from what I understand, are local Sandusky residents that have engaged in trafficking in opiates, trafficking in heroin.
And why do you think they're engaged in trafficking?
Well, I don't know all their backgrounds. Some people may traffic to support their habits, but others traffic to make money.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Is there
to
a
make
difference?
money based on? Yeah, I think there is.
Okay.
I think there is, and I think you have to look at it. Not that any of it's right.
Right.
But some people who are trafficking to support their habits may not engage in the sheer volume that the people that are doing it to make money are engaging in.
Right.
And bringing large quantities into the city to distribute.
Right. And in the end, it's the court is going to decide the punishment.
That's correct.
And there are opportunities in court, drug court, and in Erie County Court to recover.
To rehabilitate, yes. But like what he's saying, there's a segment of criminality out there that, quite frankly, they really need to be taken off the streets.
So you're encouraged by this as well, as a proponent of the recovery movement, a leader in the recovery movement.
Absolutely.
And what is it? What is it that encourages you about this? What is it that is this going to help in the recovery?
Well,
movement?
From the standpoint of recovery, if a person continues their addiction and there's no consequences, they will continue their addiction and most probably end up dead. Sometimes the best thing that happens to them is being arrested, because they will unfortunately have to kick in jail, which is not his job to do, but he does a great job of doing it. They'll have to kick their habit in jail, which is not pleasant.
Which is what we've talked about.
Yeah,
detox.
Which is not pleasant, but at the same time, it is a necessary component to a person going like, I may need to change my life.
Yeah.
And it's what they call hitting your bottom. And
Yeah.
hopefully that bottom will be followed by a moment of clarity that says, I need to do something different. Now, if they do break the law, they have to they have to pay back what they've done
Right.
in society. And maybe, like I say, a flat screen TV or
Well,
whatever.
that's the recovery.
Right,
That's the
right.
that's how
part
you
of the-
recover.
That's part of the recovery
Interesting.
process. It's the restitution process.
And we've talked a lot in the past about detox at the sheriff's jail.
Right.
And next year there'll be a detox center.
Detox center down.
Right.
And so the recovery movement is continuing to move forward in your estimation
Yes.
in Erie County?
Yes.
And in your estimation?
I agree. Not only that, I mean, we're in the process of hopefully bringing a recovery high school to this area.
A recovery high school.
We're very fortunate to have our community coming together the way they are, along with law enforcement and judicial and the recovery community itself and all the agencies trying to do the right thing.
And I got to tell you, personally, I'm so encouraged by, this action and both of you for a long time now, talking about this issue and battling this issue and having headlines like we had a raid, eight arrests, and you hope and you pray for people in recovery, but like you said, you have to pay the consequences.
Yeah, it's part of the process of hopefully establishing a recovery. If the behavior is not interrupted, why would you change?
Yeah.
If I could, short term, these individuals need to be in the county jail because they're a threat to the public safety. That's why
Right.
they end up in jail. But long term, what do we as society do with them? What do the judges do with them?
Right.
And so, the people that are, again, the significant traffickers need to be removed
Right.
from society. The people that are addicted, that are committing criminal acts solely because of their addictions, what can be done with them to try and solve the issues that they have so that the jail is just not a revolving door for them, because that's what it turns into.
So, if I were a drug dealer, should I be worried?
Yeah, you should be worried. Yeah.
Because you're coming after me.
Well, because we are intensifying our focus on narcotics dealers now, and while we have people that are assigned full time to the city of Sandusky, that doesn't mean we're not investigating other people outside of the city of Sandusky as well.
So, if a resident in Sandusky, they see suspicious activity. I know you're not the Sandusky Police Chief, and Chief Orzak is not here, but you know how these things work.
Sure.
A resident in Sandusky, calls the Sandusky Police Department and says, I think the house across the street is, there's tenants in there, and I think they're dealing drugs. And, because people drop by constantly.
Sure.
And then the resident doesn't see anything, in the next couple weeks.
Right.
Should the resident expect to see something in the next couple weeks, or does it take longer to fight this plague?
And this is a common issue that we try to explain to folks as best we can. We need the public's participation in this. They can be anonymous tips, but we need to get the tips from individuals about what the activity is. People know best what should be going on in their neighborhood and what shouldn't. And so they're very attuned to, hey, there's something going on there that's not right. Okay? So we ask for those tips to come in. The Sandusky Police Department has a drug tip hotline. That number, I'm sorry, I don't have it handy, but you may have it here.
We'll get it.
Yeah, and if not, we have a tip line just at our General Detective Bureau. Tip line number is 627-7553. Tips can go in there. They'll be relayed. If it's in the city, they'll, of course, be communicated to the Sandusky Police Department. But folks need to understand these investigations can take some time.
Right.
And
because you have to build the evidence.
correct. And like the 8 arrests that were made the other day, some of those were tied into an investigation that's been ongoing for many months.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what you want to do is look at people that are significant traffickers. You want to look at just how serious their involvement is, and maybe by investigating further, you can see that they should be subject to much greater criminal penalties than what they would be just with one initial arrest. Right. So these investigations take time to develop.
Interesting. Do you think police in general, there was a time in the not too distant past where police officers would, fear, that it's a revolving door. And we can arrest and they're out on the street before we're done with the paperwork. Is it different today? Is there more resolve? Is there more resolve from the court Is there more resolve? I mean, are police agencies still disturbed by the revolving door of justice, or do they feel stronger that they can get something done?
Well, I think it's easy to get frustrated by the revolving door mentality, but I think what we need to remember is this. That's not our job. Our job is to arrest, and if the individuals are incarcerated as a result of that arrest, that's the way it works, okay? It's up to others than us to judge these folks for what they've done.
Right.
But I think what's happening is, especially the officers on the street are starting to see that, especially with the opiate addiction, there is such a human toll with this.
Right.
That I think there is somewhat a new resolve to try and put an end to this, because, especially with the fentanyl, especially with the fentanyl, people don't know what they're buying. They don't know what they're getting, and they just end up dead.
Right.
And that's actually the job of the recovery, organizations around here, to make sure that people have the opportunity to get into recovery and to sustain a recovery.
Right.
And unfortunately, addiction is so powerful that most people relapse. But there comes a point where a person may have that moment of clarity and says to themselves, I need to stop doing this.
Right. And here are 8 individuals right here that possibly the best thing that's happened to them is that they got arrested.
It's not only the best thing for them, it's also the best thing for the community.
Either way, either because they are just flat out pure traffickers and they need to be removed from the street for a long time, or if they're traffickers with an addiction issue, again, this may be it for them. They might finally hit rock bottom and realize I got to stop this.
Very few people come to a recovery movement and say, I just thought I'd join.
Yeah.
They usually come because they either lost their job, they've lost their home, or they're in trouble with the law.
Interesting. I got a few more questions, but I got to say, you both are providing so much clarity to the community and to us in helping the community understand this problem. The detox center is going to open next year. How is that going to change things at the jail? Because do you think you're still going to be serving as a detox center? Because you've been doing that
We've been doing it for a long time. I think it depends on how crowded that detox center is when it opens.
Right.
It's 16 beds.
And what they've done.
And
if they committed a horrendous crime.
Right.
We may detox them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I know Joey, I'm sure, gets these calls. I get calls from people saying, my son, my daughter is addicted. I just realized it. Where can I take them?
Right.
And this will be a place now where those individuals, maybe that have not yet even come to our attention officially, can be taken, hopefully, to get a start on a recovery process.
Yesterday, we had 5 phone calls from concerned either parents or grandparents in regards to getting someone into treatment.
And by the same token, if we have somebody in jail who is going through detox, that would be a place we could talk to the judges about, to say, Judge, we have this individual in jail, they're starting to go through detox. Would you approve for us to take them to the detox center, at least until they're done detoxing medically, and whether the judge would then release them on bond to go there, whether they be granted a furlough, that would be up to the judge. Whether they come back to jail or just detox from there.
And could you get my notebook off my desk? Thank you. So this is part of the circle of care that we've talked about, and that you've both helped educate the community about. Detox is one of those parts. The inpatient treatment is something that leaders in the county hope to establish in 2017. The Genesis House is operating.
Right.
I think 27, 28 women and their children are being served there, long-term recovery and a drug-free place for the children. So would you say, thank you, would you say we're on track? I mean, Erie County's been cited as a very progressive county in Ohio.
Yes. I would think that, I like to think of us as being the Goldilocks. We're not too big, we're not too small, we're the right size community. And our community officials, including the law enforcement, are on our side to really alleviate this problem. Now, the problem is not just in Sandusky, it's everywhere.
Right.
And if they were to knock everybody out of the Sandusky selling drugs, people would just drive to Cleveland or Rayne or Toledo.
Right.
You're not going to stop people from using. So the fact of the matter is that it's a concerted effort, and we need to put everyone on board, because definitely there's a need.
So, Joey, what would you say to someone who's watching this program right now, who is sitting there thinking, I've got to go get, I don't know, whatever my drug is. You know, what would you tell them to do? If they
I would say in a half an hour at our facility at Sandusky Artisans Recovery Community Center at 5:30 today, there's a meeting there called Taking Back Ohio. There'll be a meeting there tonight at 8 o'clock. So on a daily basis, there's a meeting at our place every
Sandusky Artisans.
Sandusky Artisans. And the one at 5:30 primarily started out as a Vivitrol meeting. The Vivitrol meeting was people that had a problem with addiction, with heroin, they would come to our meeting because they were taking Vivitrol, which is a blocker for opiate blocker. If you take Vivitrol, you can't get high taking heroin. Now, a lot of people don't even know about that.
Right.
You know, so we're an information-based operation. We're peer-based, peer-driven, grassroots. In other words, everybody that works there, everybody that volunteers there has and is in recovery. They've been where these people are at. So,
and they're there to support that person listening right now who hasn't taken that step.
Everyone that's in our facility has had in the past had problems with either mental health challenge, addiction, or both.
And certainly, Sheriff, you've been a leader in understanding.
He's arrested some of them, and they're now working for us.
But you've been a leader also in understanding the mental health issues that people. Right. It's law enforcement. It's also how do you get people help.
Right.
This problem, it's not just a law enforcement problem. It's not just a recovery movement. This is a multidisciplinary problem, and there is a large mental health component to this as well.
Right.
We had a meeting. We were talking, before we went on here, that we had a meeting at the Artisans last Monday with Dr. Joseph Calabrese, who is I believe, an internationally known research psychiatrist from Case Western Reserve University. Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said their research indicates that 98% of people that are addicted to opiates have been shown to have an underlying mental health issue, which may explain why, you could have 100 people and a significant number, they could all get a prescription for Vicodin. And the vast majority would be able to take that prescription fine, they wouldn't have an issue with it.
Walk away from it.
But then why is it that certain number just don't seem to be able to stop?
And it's a mental health issue, and that is, if you had a broken leg, you would go to the hospital. They're self-medicating.
They're self-medicating. There's an underlying, and depression is almost ubiquitous with people that have addiction problems.
Well, I want to mention again the Sandusky Artisans at
138 East Market Street.
138 East Market Street, between Columbus Avenue and Wayne Street.
Thank you.
Right in the middle. At 5:30 today.
5:30 and 8 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow at 7. Every night of the week there's something. And we have a meeting there called Solace for people who have a loved one who has either died or is currently seeking treatment or is in treatment. So it's just not just for people that are actively using or have been using. It's for the loved ones too.
Everyone is welcome.
Everyone is welcome.
And that's 138
East Market Street.
East Market Street.
621-9377.
621-9377. I also want to mention the Sandusky Police Department anonymous drug tip hotline is 419-627-5980. The Sheriff's Office has a tip line, and that number is
627-7553.
And I also want to mention that on Friday at 2 o'clock, we're going to have a follow-up recovery program on Between the Lines. It's called Casey's Project in Ottawa County. And Bayview Police Officer Kelly Mangold will be our guest at 2 o'clock on Friday to talk about Casey's Project, which is going to take place December 11th from 3 to 6 p.m. It's going to be an interesting dialogue about that. That's this Friday at 2 p.m. I want to thank you both again for being willing to help us understand these issues better and for the work you do. We appreciate the work you do, both of you, very much.
Thanks for having us.
And that's it for this broadcast of Between the Lines Live at SanduskyRegister.com.